Welcome to Grace Notes, the community affairs show with Town of Yorktown Supervisor Michael Grace. I'm Bruce Apar, and with me is not Supervisor Grace, who had to be elsewhere today, but my friend County Legislator John Testa, who is the minority leader of the Board of Legislators, and you represent, of course, Legislator Testa of District 1.
Correct.
Which is Yorktown.
Which is part of Yorktown.
Yeah.
I share, Mike Kaplowitz and I split Yorktown almost down the middle.
Right.
And also the town of Cortland and City of Peekskill.
Right. Does it get split like, how does it get split like, horizontally?
Well, it's basically the best way in Yorktown to think of it is by school district. If it's a Yorktown school, then it's usually Mr. Kaplowitz.
Okay.
And if it's Lakeland, then it's me.
Oh, okay, that's how they do it? Is that
it's
how
basically how it was done.
Right. And just for those who may not know, there are 17 districts, right, in the county, yeah. But just quickly, we wanted to share, I don't know if I'd call it an amusing anecdote, although we could laugh about it now. But this is my first show back on Grace Notes since something happened in Yorktown on August 19th at the great Yorktown Lions all day. Yeah, music spectacular that Councilman Lochterman had a lot to do with, and it was a great event. And so you were there, along with Supervisor Grace. I know State Senator Terrence Murphy was there, all to present proclamations.
Kevin Byrne was there.
Right, that's right, Assemblyman Kevin Byrne, all to present proclamations to Jessica Lynn, who is a Yorktowner and has had like great success as an entertainer in Europe and
right. Just came back from the big tour in Europe. Yeah. 3 months.
So it was fitting. You all were presenting proclamations to her. However, the concert was delayed because these things happen.
Yes.
Right, and you had to leave. Yeah. And my friend Supervisor Grace sort of surprised me when he said, "You want to come up with me and stand in for Legislator Testa?" I go, "Well, sure, that's an honor." And it just was one of these weird circumstances where, it's a last-minute thing, and I'm looking at the proclamation, and the lights
10 o'clock at night.
10 o'clock at night. The lights are glaring on stage, and I, thinking I'm being sort of cool, sauntered downstage to give the proclamation to Jessica Lynn, and the next thing I know, I'm on my back on the ground because I fell off the stage.
But you didn't get hurt. That's the main thing. That's the main thing.
And as I tell everybody, two things. One is I am a very, very lucky person, and number two is that the scariest thing is when I think about what could have happened.
Yeah, exactly. Me too. After I heard about it.
And then, of course, we had fun on Facebook where I said, I forget what I said about it, making some joke about,
It's not easy being Legislator Testa, is it?
I said, you should thank me for proving that that you're irreplaceable. You can't be replaced. Nobody can stand in for you because I fell down on the job. That's right. Okay, anyhow. And we also want to congratulate your wife, Nancy, on this is the first day of...
First full day of retirement.
Not being at work, at least at a full-time job. So, right, which is very nice, yeah. And how many years, John, have you been in office now? I know you've had other elected offices.
This is coming to the end of my 4th term, 8 years as county legislator, and was mayor before that for 3 terms, and then a 1-term councilman before that.
Yeah.
So it's my 20th year in government.
Right. Yeah, that's wonderful. No, and you do a great job. I mean, you show up everywhere. You're really out and about and meeting people and talking to people. And speaking of which, I just want to definitely plug the Yorktown Feast of San Gennaro, which is one reason I'm not wearing a tie. Not that I'd be wearing one anyhow, because I don't anymore, but that's why I'm wearing the shirt that says Yorktown Feast of San Gennaro that opened on Wednesday, September 13th. We're recording this on September 14th.
Next day, yep.
So if you're watching this anytime up until Sunday, make sure you get out to the feast because it's
bigger than ever. It's
the
great.
3rd year, yeah. I mean, it's interesting. I did the publicity for the feast, but also for the Grange Fair last weekend, and the Grange Fair is in its 93rd year, and the feast is in its 3rd year. But it does say something about Yorktown. Look, what is it? Progress with preservation. So the feast is a sign of the preservation. 93 years, and in terms of progress, I know the supervisor. We talk about this a lot. Encourages new community events and that kind of engagement. And this is right. A great
I think
example.
Yorktown, one thing I've learned about Yorktown in the 8 years that I've been serving up here is the community is really close-knit, and they really come together, and they know how to play nice together and really come together as a community. And since Mike has been supervisor, this is one event, but the electric light parade,
Another one.
which will come up not before we know it,
Yeah,
in a couple
December.
months.
Yes,
That always is a lot of fun, and it's in its third or fourth or fifth year, something like that. It hasn't been around that long.
Right.
So it's building community
the New Year's
spirit.
ball drop is another one.
Exactly.
Chamber
So-
of Commerce does, and yeah.
So it builds community spirit and community togetherness, and I think that's good.
Yeah, no, it's great. And there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of things really, right, legislator, happening in the county. I mean, we read about it in the news, of course, and we should say that it was really nice at the opening procession of the Feast of San Gennaro that County Executive Rob Astorino was here, and he's another one. I mean, as you well know, and the same goes for you, as I was saying, he is a consummate retail politician, isn't he?
He's everywhere. Yeah,
Right. He's everywhere, and he's very genuine. I mean, I once wrote in a column years ago. I'm not going to say who this is, but there was a predecessor, just whatever, going back, which I always felt that when I was talking to the person, it's like he was talking to 1,000 people instead of talking to me.
Right,
and then with Rob, the way I compared, I said, when Rob's talking to 1,000 people, you think he's talking to just you, right?
Yeah. No, he's very articulate, obviously, and he wants to explain the issues and make sure people understand all the facts. And when it comes to events like yesterday, he can speak the languages that need to be spoken.
Right.
So he knows how to connect, and that's important.
Right. And I mean, and one example which you can expound on at your discretion is, the political courage he showed in taking on a federal agency.
The HUD issues?
Yeah, with the affordable housing, and prevailed.
It was a big fight, and it's easy to just capitulate to those things. And he knew he had us behind him, which helps. It was not easy at times because we knew the deck was stacked against us. Yeah. But being persistent and being, as I said before, articulate, sticking to the facts, being very specific, we were able to show that what the federal government wanted to proclaim, Westchester being a discriminatory county, which is not true, and that the zoning laws throughout the county were designed in a discriminatory way against certain people, which is not true. Zoning, and we felt that, and he was very strong, that the zoning laws of a community, which is why New York is a home rule state. Every community has the right to form their own zoning laws, and they spend a lot of time doing that. And there's reasons why things can't get built in certain areas, or sizes of things shouldn't be built. And we finally, after 12 times trying to prove that, and now having the final one being finally was agreed to between the government and the county, the federal government and the county, to have an objective third person, consultant come in and do the study. Right. And they came up with the same results as the county did 11 times before. Right. So they finally realized, well, we can't go any further, and they decided that they had to stop.
They backed off.
So now, and we built the number of units way above the number of units that was required in the agreement, which we both inherited coming in. Rob was not in office, I was not in office when that was agreed to. So we did our job. We followed the the law. We followed the agreement to the T.
Right.
And we did a good job, I think. And now we can move on, hopefully.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of news has always been made by Entergy, I guess you could say, but especially lately with the state, or Albany, really. I don't know if the right word here is unilaterally, but I mean, it wasn't unilateral. It was with Entergy's cooperation, but the way it happened was a little bit odd, right? It came out of nowhere.
Yeah, well, we found
we should just clarify that Entergy will shut down when? What year is it?
In 2021.
Right.
It's scheduled to shut down the first unit, and then 2 years later, the second. But there's provisions for it to be extended for
Right.
for a total of 4 more years if need be. But as you said, we found out about it in January in an article from the New York Times.
Right.
And the excuse is, and maybe it's legitimate, I don't know, but the excuse is, you know, it's all based on a lawsuit. There were lawsuits involved.
Right.
Entergy was trying to get their relicensing. It's been going on for
Yes.
10 years. They've been stopped, and there was legal maneuvers being made, and this was an agreement that came out of that.
Right.
And that's why it couldn't be public, and that's why they couldn't mention it leading up to it, because it was a legal proceeding and a legal settlement.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's up to, you know, every individual to believe or not. The point is, we found out about it, and we had to mobilize right away because we all, first of all, had to find out if it was true.
Right. Yeah. Right.
It was a newspaper article. It wasn't anything official.
Right.
So we found out that it was true. Time to move on, and then we went into group mode, or everybody coming together, because it was a very shocking thing to find out. Whether you agree or disagree with the fact that we have nuclear energy coming from that site,
Right.
the closing of that plant causes a tremendous amount of ripple effects throughout
Right.
the community. The school district loses 30% of their taxes.
Right.
Village of Buchanan, 50% of their taxes.
Sheesh.
The fire department loses most of their income. The library in Montrose loses half of their tax income. All the stores, even the hotel that was built down the road in Peekskill, 20% of the business they get is through
Holiday Inn,
Entergy-related
right,
things.
yeah, right.
So, I mean, and we keep finding out more and more. So we had to get involved as a local community to get to the bottom of it, and that's what we've been doing. There's a task force that was eventually put together by the state, which I'm on. There's a local one in Cortland, which I'm on as well. And we're maneuvering through all the issues that come up with closing the plant, decommissioning of the site,
Right.
and all that is involved with that. So that's what we're working on now.
Right. And I mean, is it really feasible that that lost revenue could even be made up? I mean, all of it, maybe. I know some of it, hopefully, will be made up. But is it feasible?
Well, they're building, from what we've been told so far, and I'll know more at the end of this month. In a couple of weeks, after the summer, the state's coming back down, and we're going to get filled in on what they've been able to work over the last
You
few
think there might
months.
be some state aid?
There's going to be There's going to be a gradual reduction in state aid. It's going to start with an 80% payment to make up for what's lost.
I see. Okay.
And then over a few year period, it's going to be reduced. But eventually, yes, there's going to have to be a plan to replace it.
Right.
It's a big site, 200-acre site that has to be determined if any of that is going to be usable again.
Right.
The rods, the spent rods have to be stored there. There's nowhere else to send them, so that
Right.
plays into it.
Right.
The decommissioning takes 20 to 60 years, depending on what processes. So there's a lot to still work through, and
Yeah.
it's a lot of concern there. So I'm trying to be as involved as I can in all aspects of it. So.
Right. Right. And then what's happening with the airport? I mean, I love, both my wife Elise and I, when we travel either together or separately for whatever reason. Just recently we used Westchester Airport, and it's very convenient, obviously, for residents, and so that's being privatized.
There's a lot of misconceptions about the airport. First of all, the sentiment is don't privatize the airport, but newsflash, it's been privatized since World War II.
Right.
So it's privatized right now.
Was it a public-private partnership?
No, it wasn't. It's an agreement with the county,
Right.
and the county loses $1 million a year on that agreement.
But how? So how does it lose?
Because we have a vendor is in there running it, and we have to supply the police and there's services.
And what they're paying is
Yes.
$1 million less than what we're spending.
Exactly,
Right.
exactly. So it's already privatized, and it's on a finite piece of property. It's not going to expand. Everybody's, it's going to expand. We're going to have LaGuardia North. No,
no.
you can't have LaGuardia North.
People in Greenwich would appreciate
So
that, right?
that's another aspect that's being used. That's not factual. And so what the county executive thought, there is a federal plan or process that can be used. It's used in a couple other areas where if you have this certain type of an agreement, a private-public partnership agreement, you can then take revenue from that airport and use it in the general fund. Right now, no money can be removed from the operation itself. Any profits that are made, which aren't as that much, but whatever is made has to stay within the airport. So the feeling is it could be, $100 million over the course of 30 years, about $15 million a year in the beginning that can be first taken out in the first year, and then $4 or $5 million a year that the county can get in operating revenue. And when you want to keep taxes at zero, which we've done for 7 years, and have no increase, you got to have outside the box thinking to bring new revenue in. So that's where we're at. And there was an initial offering, and some people did not like the idea of not having an RFP process to see who else might be interested. So we stopped that initial offering review, did the RFP. The RFPs have come back recently over the summer. There are 3 responses, and they're being reviewed now.
But an operator had been selected, right? At one point?
Well, there was one offer, Oak Tree.
It was accepted? Or?
It was accepted by the administration, but the Board of Legislators has to also vote and agree. They didn't approve it. They wanted to see who else would be interested. So that's what we did, and that's where we're at right now. So hopefully by the end of this calendar year, one of the 3 will be selected, and we can move forward with that process.
Excuse me, but it probably wouldn't take effect for what?
Till next year sometime.
That's pretty quick, actually, And then speaking of, privatizing assets like that, Playland, right? That's another example.
Playland, that took a little bit of time. It's a tough issue because it's an amusement park, but it's also a beach, and so there was an issue with the pool. Some of the rides are owned by the county, some of them are rented. But really, I'm one of the ones on the board who does not believe that Playland or that the county government should be running an amusement park. I just don't see that.
It's not the business they're in.
Two things jiving there, but so it is parkland, and it has to stay parkland unless it went through the state process of alienation, which I don't think anybody has the inclination to do. So it's how do we make Playland the best possible place, and get some revenue out of that as well, because right now that's it's only during the warm months. It's closed except for the ice rink during the winter. So the county executive there wanted to think out of the box and make it a 12-month as much possible location. So having a professional operator come in, and the county's going to be involved a little bit in the beginning, but eventually the operator will have a plan there to make it more commercial, be a more commercially successwell venture.
So is that the county would be leasing the land? Is that
there's a whole agreement that was put in place. And we'll also have to remember there's a $30 million investment in capital projects by the county, and the new operator coming in has also pledged roughly $30 million. So $60 million in improvements are going to be made starting next year on that property, on the plant itself, on the buildings. They are Art Deco era buildings. They're beautiful buildings. So there's going to be a lot of improvement there in the buildings and in the types of amusements that are there.
No, that'll be good. And you were talking before about misperceptions, and I just did a little research, refreshing my memory about this, that people, if they don't already know, should know and appreciate that out of the taxes they pay. And this is from the website. This is from the Westchester. Out of every dollar of taxes, only 15 cents goes to the county, right?
If you divide up your total tax bill, the bulk of it, 60+% is going to the school district.
To schools,
And
And the other
About
part-
15% to the county, and the rest is your local
town or-
municipal.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And then also with county revenue, like I guess about a third of it comes from property taxes, and
Right.
about the same, I guess, from sales taxes, right?
Well, yeah, and that's that's the thing that we have to understand with probably most budgets, but especially with the county budget, we have so many mandates from the state
Right.
that
Unfunded mandates.
exactly,
Right, right.
and other requirements that the amount of discretionary money that we really have to work with is very, very small. So something like sales tax, which is basically you have to estimate the year before
What you're gonna, yeah.
what you're going to get,
Right.
and that's the educated guessing of
Right.
budgets. You
Right.
know, they are mostly educated assumptions on
Right.
some things. So sales tax is a very big, and with the gas
Yeah.
fluctuation,
Right, right.
that plays into it as well. Now that gas prices are going up, sales tax will go up. But
Right.
but the last couple of years when gas was so low, the revenue. So it's good for the economy. It's good for the residents to have low gas pricing, but it does have an effect in other places. So we have to account for that.
Right, and in
best we can,
And in
anyway.
Yorktown, of course, one of the the latest developments is BJ's now
Yes.
selling gas as of what, this
Yeah, I
past
saw
week,
that.
really.
Yeah, I saw
it's-
that. Yeah.
And apart from your work, as a public servant and a elected official, that you also are a Lincoln file, right? And I don't mean the car. I mean
Yes.
the president, the 16th president. So why don't we just talk about that a little bit
Okay.
with you're president, right, of the Lincoln
president of
Society in Peekskill?
I was
Yeah.
a president of the Lincoln Society in the past, but the Lincoln Depot Museum is what
Yeah.
I'm the president of now, which
Right.
is a separate entity from the society.
Right.
The museum in Peekskill, now it's in its third year.
Yeah.
I'm just
By
I'm just
Riverfront
very
Green,
interested in
for
history,
people.
especially local history, and I got
Yeah.
involved with the Lincoln issue years ago when I did join the Lincoln Society, which has been around over 100 years,
Right.
promoting the fact that Lincoln stopped in
Stopped here,
Peekskill.
yeah.
It's the only stop he made in Westchester was in Peekskill on his inaugurational journey.
Right.
And
1860?
1861,
Okay, yeah. Oh, the
And-
inauguration, not the election, right?
correct.
Right.
February 19th to be exact.
1861. Yeah.
And
And we should tell people it's right at basically Riverfront
it's
Green, right?
yeah, it's well, it's if you know Homestyle Bakery, which
Right,
I'm
it's
sure
next
a
door,
lot of
right.
people know.
Yes,
it's
right.
right next door.
Right.
It's on the western side of the tracks. You don't have to cross the track.
Right.
It's the original railroad depot for the city. We obtained it when I was mayor. We got the grants from Governor Pataki,
Right.
who knew the story and was very interested in helping us preserve the building. It's been restored, and it's been a wonderful museum has been created, and we're getting international recognition for the museum.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah,
And we have an auxiliary building being built as we speak, which was a part of the grants from back in 2006.
Right.
Finally getting
Took a few
auxiliary
years, so-
building built. And so it's going to be a wonderful historic site when it's all done. And
Yeah, it's beautiful, yeah.
we have events there. So anyone can go to the website, lincolndepotmuseum.org,
Right.
and they can see the inside and they can see the events that we have.
And Governor Pataki, was he mayor of Peekskill or council? City
He was
council?
mayor of
He was
Peekskill
mayor and
back in the early
city
80s.
council before then, right? Or was it-
No, he was not the city
Never on the
council.
city-
I think he went
He went right,
a mayor-
straight to state senator or
mayor to assembly person
Okay.
to senate to
to
governor.
governor? Yeah, which is one of the biggest upsets in
Yes.
certainly New York State history. That's I remember that well.
Yeah, so and lucky for me when I was mayor,
He unseated the first governor. Cuomo.
yeah, exactly,
Right.
exactly. But well, as I was saying, luckily for me when I was mayor, he being governor, when I sat with him to discuss my ideas, I didn't have to explain a whole lot because he knew the history. Growing up in Peekskill, you know the history
Yeah.
of the Lincoln connection and really the connection of history in general to our Hudson Valley area. I believe is the cradle and the beginning of our country. It happened right here in the Hudson Valley.
Yeah.
If you start
Go back
looking
to the
at
Indians and the Native Americans. And,
look at the one story, the Benedict Arnold story and Major Andre and the whole
right.
they did TV series, the Turn TV series, they have books.
Right, yeah.
Actually, Governor Pataki's daughter, Allison, came out with a book on that story, connected with West Point and Peekskill and Verplank and Terrytown, and Yorktown has its history. Yorktown has a rich Revolutionary War history, as you know. Pines Bridge and all that. So it's a very historic area, and I think people should learn more about it.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. No, I mean, for one thing, it's fascinating, and of course we have, that Pines Bridge monument that the fundraising is still proceeding, and that would be great.
That would be a wonderful thing for. Yeah. I'm glad that's being done. I know it takes time.
Khan, has done a great job with that.
Yeah, it's really it's a big job. Raising the money.
It's a lot of money.
We have a big statue at the museum, a life-size statue of Lincoln when he's.
Right. I love that statue.
That took us some time, but luckily we were able to have Ginsburg Development help us with that. They were doing some major projects in the city at the time, and they wanted to be involved with promoting the history and preserving the history, so they agreed and offered to pay for that. So those are the kinds of things that, brings people together. We talked about it before, but history, to me, is something you can never talk enough about.
Yeah, I agree. No, it is. It's fascinating. And also, we should mention you were for how many years a teacher in...
I was a high school teacher at Peekskill High School.
History? Was it history?
I taught mostly technology, but I also taught history, social studies. I was dually certified for 33 years.
Yeah, wow.
4 years out, retirement now.
Right. No, but it's amazing, that you did that, and now you've had a very, very successful...
I only have one job instead of two.
What now?
I always had two jobs.
Right.
I was a teacher and mayor, or teacher and county, and now I'm just...
No, but it's a real testament that you could, succeed in two different, totally unrelated careers, right? It's...
Actually, there's a lot more connected than you realize between teaching and government, because I got to really, if you don't mind me going off on a little tangent, I got to talk about governmental things with my classes. They would ask me questions about what's going on, and I got to really get into some good issues, not political, but just why is the city doing this? Why does this happen? How does this happen? So with social studies and being in government, kind of went together. So
that's a good point.
It was good.
Well, I thought you were going to say that just as you had to deal with unruly students, you have unruly constituents.
Wow. That's an art form in itself.
I'm a constituent, so I can say it, right?
Yes.
And what about, something I saw on the website, I don't know that I was aware of this, and I was sort of surprised if this is an issue. Sick leave, what's going on with that? Something about earned sick leave? Or?
Well, there are some legislators looking to promote a law to require part-time employees to get paid sick leave.
Oh, I see. So they mean the county would be able to enforce that? With
I don't.
Sir?
Well,
sounds more like a federal type of.
It is, or a state. The state could do it.
Right.
I think the state is contemplating it. I don't know how. I don't know where it's at in the pipeline at the state. But some are, it's election year, so things come out of the woodwork on these
season,
things.
Right.
Yeah, so I don't think it's going to go anywhere, but I don't think there's going to be enough support. But that doesn't stop some people from trying. So. And we hear everybody's ideas. We're open to that.
And what would you say, apart from all the issues we're talking about, and you've done a great job of summarizing some of the, not that they're wedge issues, but they are some of the key
global issues,
key topics, right? What do you like most about what about your role as a legislator? What would you say that is?
I just, and it's going to sound corny, but ever since I got involved with government, I just like helping people. Yeah. When they call me and they have individual issues that they seem, they just can't seem to get anywhere, and I can help them either directly or indirectly by pointing them in the right direction, and then they remember that, and years later they'll come up and say, you helped me, and I was able. To me, that's what it's all about. It's a people business, and as much as I love the government part, making things happen in our meetings and creating laws and all that, but to me it's more about helping people and making where everyone lives a better place to live, and they feel that they have someone who listens to them and will help them in any way, and that's what I like.
No, and something with you, John, it really comes through too, that You exude that enjoyment. You really do. No, I can see that, right, Nancy? Is that? No, he does. You do. Yeah. And the other thing that I just wanted to touch on is that, now actually on a federal level in the news, there's hopefully, there's encouraging signs of bipartisanship. Yes. Even if it's just between the president and the other party, if not both parties. But you and Chairman Kaplowitz also, you're in two different parties. You're a Republican, he's a Democrat, but you also have almost, if I'm not mistaken, from the beginning when you worked together, had a really nice working relationship.
We agree to disagree where that happens, but we don't take it personal. But we probably agree on 90% of everything we pass at the board. And if you're not bipartisan, if you don't at least listen to the other side, right, you're not going to, sometimes they might have a good idea,
maybe,
or maybe
even if they are the opposition.
Exactly, right? Or maybe, I can live with getting 70 or 80% of what I really wanted, and at least I get something done. Some people, they can't do that. It has to be 100% or nothing. So if you can come up with a compromise on certain things, that's what we try to do. Sometimes we can't, and we say, okay. But if we can, we do. And usually it's a good compromise, and a lot of times it's a better outcome than when we started. Right. We recognize that the law or the bill or the act or whatever we're doing is better than what we originally had. So, when you talk through things with people and you get all their input and perspective on things, comes out better sometimes.
Right. Well, I mean, and also, I think it's a known fact, so it's fair to say that Legislator Mike Kaplowitz is like a coalition chairman, isn't he? Sort of. I mean.
Yeah. Well, we have we call it the coalition. Yeah. The makeup of the board, it's 17, as you said, but there's it's a 9-8. There's 9 Democrats, 8 Republicans, but Mike is a fiscal conservative, right, yes, as well as Virginia Perez, who's also one of our coalition members. So with the coalition, we have a pretty strong block of 10 votes when it's something we all agree on.
Swing votes, sort of.
Yeah, so what we do is if there's 1 or 2 changes that need to be made that will make Mike more comfortable or Virginia more comfortable on something, that's what we do, or right, vice versa. So we try to make the model of bipartisanship and hope that the others join. Sometimes they do, right, and sometimes they don't. So that's the way it is.
Yeah. Okay. Anyhow, thank you very much.
Thank you.
John, informally, Legislator Testa, formally. No, this has been really enjoyable. And again, it's good to see you standing up. Yes. Needing me standing up, not you.
I appreciate you filling in for me.
Oh, no, listen, like I said, it really was an honor, and I'm sorry that I fell down on the job. And that's about it.
Well, you made it a memorable event.
Yeah, I know.
Nobody will forget, especially you.
I was telling people last night at the feast, how we all go up to each other when we see, hey, how are you? And I said to them, when they say it to me now, I do a double take. Oh, you really mean how am I physically, don't you? Right? Yes. So anyhow, thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. Appreciate
John Testa, the minority leader of the Westchester County Board of Legislators, and our representative at the Legislature in Yorktown. And thank you for watching Grace Notes with Town of Yorktown Supervisor Michael Grace when he's here. And I'm Bruce Apar. Be sure to watch us next time and every time, because Yorktown is your town, and make sure you get to the Yorktown Feast of San Gennaro through Sunday, September 17th.